Hello everyone and welcome to another video of me just rambling on about stuff. And today I decided to ramble on about Mists of Pandaria. Considering that Warlords is just, around the corner, I thought it would be a good idea to make kind of a list. Good things and bad things, and just go through the list and give you my opinion on it. So I'm just gonna get right into it. First of all, I want to talk about the graphics. I think the graphics are amazing in the game, just across the board. Everything looks amazing. The whole continent looks amazing. And I want to highlight what my favorite zone is, which is Kunlai Summits, especially the mountains. Up the mountains next to the temple, where that big tiger is. I don't remember the name of that guy because I'm not good with names. But it's just visually amazing, the game across the board, and especially those zones. So yeah, graphics, thumbs up. Another thing I want to highlight is pet battles. Even though I don't do a lot of pet battles, I think it was a good thing to be added to the game. It just gives you an extra thing you can do, and it's fun, and I've tried a little bit. I just didn't get into it because I'm busy, just doing other stuff. But I think it's good. I think it needs to be there, and it should be there, and I hope it stays there. Another thing I want to talk about is toys. A lot of toys in Pandaria. A lot of stuff you can get, that's cool. Like the Mr. Smite thingy, which I'm not sure how it's called, that turns you into the guy from Dead Mines. That's amazing. The blizzard thing, that turns the area where you're at into a blizzard storm. A blizzard. And what else? The elixir of knowledge, I think it's called, where you can... when you could give it to an alt, and it boosts the experience you gain for like 300% for an hour, I think it is. So all of that is good stuff to be in the game. Toys and stuff you can kind of, farm when you have nothing else to do. It's just good to be there. So toys, good. World bosses, also very good. I'm glad that they brought back, if you will, the world bosses. A lot of them running around. I think there was like 4 or 5 in this expansion. The only thing I don't like, or not that I don't like, I'd much rather be like it was in Burning Crusade, where you had the Fell Reaver walking around Hellfire Peninsula, and it was like, you just had to run away. You heard that awful sound. Those kind of world bosses. But what we have now is decent. I just hope that it, eventually they do something like the Fell Reaver again. It was just epic. Now, I want to talk a little bit about, the Timeless Isle, the Isle of Thunder kind of thing, the play model it implemented, it gave us. I think that was a very, very positive thing. I think it still has room to improve, but I think overall it was really, really good, especially if you think about dailies, which were horrible, but I'll cover dailies a little bit later. So that model, Timeless Isle model, the Isle of Thunder thing, where you have just 1-2 daily quests at most. Well, Isle of Thunder had a bunch of them, but I think like Timeless Isle might be just the perfected version of Isle of Thunder. So that's a good thing. Timeless Isle, Isle of Thunder, yeah. Next up is scenarios. Scenarios is, debatable. I like scenarios. I think it's nice that you can... just get 2 friends, regardless of whether they're tanks or healers, and just go do some content and get some rewards out of it. Next up, flex mode. Flex mode for raiding, I think, was a big, big, big plus in the expansion when it came, back in 5.4, I think, when 5.4 came out. It was a big plus. I think it gave an extra option for people that aren't really hardcore raiders, that can't commit like 4, 5, 6 days a week into raiding. Or can't get a guild that raids in heroic or whatever, or normal modes. So flex mode kind of filled that gap very effectively, in my opinion. And I'm a big fan. I've done flex a lot of times. And that's something that will stick with me. I think it was something that was added to the game that helped the game, and it's one of the big, big pluses in this list that I have. Anyway, moving on. I'd like to talk about the legendary questline, which will be kind of the transition point into my list of bad things about the expansion. I think that it's awesome that the legendary questline is available for everyone. You start the expansion, you have the prince there waiting for you. You could just start the quest, and I think it's fine, and it's good that it's available for everyone. However, and now moving on to my list of bad things, I think it was too easy. I think it was just about, it's just a matter of time. That's all it took to get the legendary cloak is time. Plus it's a cloak. That's a bad thing as well, the fact that it's a cloak and it's not a weapon or whatever. I think it should have been something more along the lines of what they did in Wrath of the Lich King. Inside the instance, you had to do really hard quests, and some of them had to be done in heroic mode. So I think, to sum it up, I think the legendary quest should be available for everyone as it was in Pandaria, but as hard as it was back in Wrath of the Lich King, for instance. Anyway, yeah, so that's the first item of my bad things in Pandaria. The next one is the one that I hate the most, that it's like a hobby of mine to hate it, which is LFR. I just hate it. I think it's horrible. I think they should remove it. I don't think they will, but I think they should. I think they should remove LFR and just have scenarios and dungeons as part of the progression to take you to rating, inflex, normal, and heroic. Like scenarios could work as something you get your random drops like you do today, but you also get some sort of currency like badges or whatever, like in Wrath. And just grind that out and move on to dungeons, and then from dungeons you move on to LFR. I'm sorry, not LFR. You move on to flex, normal, and heroic. So yeah, just LFR is just the worst thing ever. I hate it, and I wish it just disappeared, but it won't. Another thing I wanted to talk about is about questing. Questing, was pretty damn good in Pandaria, but only if you did it once, because the quests were just too linear. You were forced to do the same quests over and over if you wanted to roll alts, which was my case. So that was a really bad thing. I think they should have done something like they did in Borean Tundra and Howling Fjord, where you had two major quest hubs which you could pick which one you'd go in Wrath. I think that was really good, and they should probably consider doing that again in the future, because it gets tedious to do the same shit over and over again. Just pretty much like the next thing I'm going to talk about, which is dailies, which were the absolute nightmare of this expansion when it started. And it just thankfully it kind of faded away, but it was just just so off-putting. It got me off the game for half the expansion. That's how bad it was. The daily was just horrible, and I don't think I should there's no need for me to just ramble on about dailies. I think everyone can relate to this. They were horrible. I think dailies should exist, but not as they were at the launch of Pandaria. Next up, I want to talk about something that's good, both good and bad, which is the Warlock class quest, the one to get the green fire. I think it's awesome. I did the quest. I've got the green fire. I think it's amazing. It rocks. The fight rocks. The whole thing rocks. I think it's amazing that it did that. But I'm putting this on my bad things list because I think it's unfair that it's not available to all the other classes. I mean, if you're going to do something like a class quest that's so specific for Warlocks, it's just unfair that the other classes don't have anything to show for and to do as the Warlocks did. So yeah, so this is kind of a debatable issue, I guess, but I decided to put this on my bad list because it's not fair to the other classes, even though the whole questline rocks and the green fire rocks. Now, moving on, I'd like to talk about the next thing in my list, which is the level 90 boosts. I'm putting this on the bad things list because, especially because they allow you to purchase it now. I think it was a good idea to have the boost, but only once. I don't think it's a good idea to have it available to purchase, because it defeats the concept of the game. In my view, it defeats the purpose. I think it's nice that it's a good strategy, and I understand it, to bring back old players if they've been away from the game and get them right up and ready for Draenor. But let them do it once. Don't let people just keep buying boosts and just messing up the gameplay for everyone else, in my opinion. So yeah, I don't think it's as big of an issue as it was when it came out. I think people have kind of adjusted to it, but I don't think it was a good thing overall. I think it should have only been available once, and that was it. So yeah. And last but not least, the lack of a major antagonist. I think Garrosh is fine. He's a big badass, but I think, they should have come up with this earlier. I think this should have been part of the expansion's launch, as you know, as much as Deathwing was part of Cataclysm and Arthas was part of Wrath. I think this whole expansion kind of lacked this big antagonist until the end, until we got Garrosh. And that kind of fell flat for me, you know. It just didn't feel like, you know, this was Warcraft in a way. There wasn't a big badass guy we had to kill. We only got this guy really late in the expansion, and I think that wasn't really a good thing. And Draenor is shaping up to be a lot different in that regard. So yeah, I think that's all. I think I've covered everything I wanted to say. I'd love to hear what you guys think about this, if you agree, if you don't agree. And yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, comment, and subscribe, and share your thoughts. And I'll see you next time, guys, and bye-bye.
Burn in the fires of my hatred.